And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Thank you so much for waiting while we set up shop here. For those who are listening on iTunes Radio, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, the guys from Queens Network. Where else? I think I said iTunes Radio.
You did?
Yeah. Welcome. And everyone listening and watching the broadcast on The Bald Truth on Joe Tillman's personal YouTube page, which is youtube.com/hair transplant mentor. Thank you so much. Also for all of you guys who are watching on hair transplant, is it hair loss experiences in the UK, Billy Capelli forum in Italy, and the international
forum free.it. Yep.
Right. Well, you'll give that out. I'm just saying hi.
Yes.
And what is it? The International Hair Loss Forum?
Yes.
And those guys are in France.
They are.
Welcome. Thank you so much to those forum owners, those well-respected forum owners, for embedding this broadcast so that your readers, your viewers, your traffic, that we all have to procure ourselves, have the possibility to tune in and be a part of this broadcast, because it's important. We're supposed to be in this together. And I find it fascinating that you guys are the only 3 message forums worldwide who don't have a fear of competition when we are not your competition. So I appreciate that. They get it. They understand what we're doing here.
They're good guys.
100%.
I like dealing with them.
The phone number is 888-659-3727. This is the Hair Loss Show. This is not a new broadcast, but if you're new to the show, we've been on the air for almost 22 years, talking about the same thing. I have been. He's been on and off a minimum 5 years, calling into the program and coming on the program kind of like as a guest host for about a decade. 15?
15, yeah. Since like 2004, 2005, I was calling you.
Well, you were stalking me at that time.
I was stalking you and wondering what it meant when people I knew were saying, damn him, Kobren. I wasn't sure what that was about, so I had to find out. Turns out you weren't so bad.
Yeah, that's the way it always is. All people have to do is get to meet me, get to know me. Understand what I'm trying to do here. I'm not trying to destroy your business. I'm not trying to destroy your practice. I'm not trying to take over the industry. It just happens to be coming this way. What am I going to do? Because you guys are just, it's your game to lose. But
it works out.
What we're trying to do, and what we've been able to do, at least for those who have found us over all these years, is we have guided them in a safe direction when it comes to anything and everything hair loss, and we have essentially been able to preach our message when it comes to surgery, and that is hair transplant surgery is a last resort. And frankly, the vast majority of physicians who are hanging up a shingle claiming they're hair transplant specialists and offering this on their menus of aesthetic procedures suck at what they do. And even back in the day, when there were guys who were just specializing or claimed to specialize in hair transplant surgery, they sucked too. That's why I've been able to do this for 22 fucking years. That's the only reason, because most of you guys suck at what you do. It's dangerous out there. People are being harmed. And if we didn't get constant complaints And if the industry didn't continue to devolve, then I would be out of business. And what's counterintuitive is that we're trying to make that happen. We are trying to make this a better place. And if you really wanted to see me go away, people, you would just help. Get it to the point where it needs to be, and then Spencer Kobren takes his ball and goes home. You know?
Wouldn't it just...
Look at that.
Just be,
isn't that hilarious? What just happened?
You're determined to get that chick on there, aren't
Maybe she's going to come on. I don't know. Undercover tech.
She haunts my dreams.
I'm telling you, I don't care what you say. There's something wrong with my sounds here. My audio is just, my levels are all over the place. No one could fix them.
Because they only exist in your mind.
That might be true, actually. That's what fucks me up, is that might be true. I'm looking at levels.
Week. I keep hearing things that no one else hears. We've discussed this.
That's true. That's true. I was speaking to a friend of mine about my illness, my mental illness, actually, my OCD and all that shit. It's not fun. It's not fun being me. Anyway, we have a full board tonight. Started off completely full. Guys, if you are trying to get through and you don't hear a busy signal, but you are sent into a queue and then hung up on, that means we're busy. That's the way that it works. So with a full board like we have right now, I'm sure there are plenty of people who are still trying to call in. You'll know that you're on, or at least in queue, when you're able to hear my voice and Joe's voice over the phone. So keep trying. The phone number is 888-659-3727. I don't really feel like doing a big opening tonight. Had a long day, so I'm just going to take calls.
Let's do it.
All right. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, man, what's up? This is Clay.
Hey, Clay, what's happening? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Grand Rapids, Michigan. You might remember me. I called you guys like 10 months ago, and I was from Transitions in Indiana. I was going to get that surgery done, and you guys talked me out of it.
You know what? I kind of think I remember you, but there's a lot of people that we talk out of surgery. But
I remember the name of the clinic because it made me think of a different surgery. Transitions.
Exactly, and that's what I... Yeah, so, let me refresh your memory. I'm 27 years old, and I'm a musician, and I was super self-conscious about it, and I made a rash decision to set up a consultation. It was virtual, and then I was going to get it done, and I literally was set up for surgery, and then I called you guys out on a whim because I was a little bit apprehensive about doing it, and then you guys really showed me all the reasons why I shouldn't, so I ended up canceling it. And I got on
the name of the place is Transitions, and the fact that you did an online consultation, they were willing to sign you up for surgery right there and then?
Yeah, exactly. I was literally set up for I called you guys probably, I don't know, must have been like December, and I was set up for surgery in February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did that go? When you canceled your procedure, how did that go? I'd like to know more about that conversation.
Oh yeah. So I was able to get my money back in full, and they hounded me for weeks on getting back in and wondering why I canceled and was it money, financially related and whatnot. And I was just straight up, and I just basically said, yeah, it's partially due to financial, but it's a big investment. But it was also I feel as though I was just kind of diving into it,
Spencer Kobren made me do it.
I'm going to say Spencer and Joe told me not to do it.
There's a story of a guy who contacted me who was harmed and really misled by a pretty well-known hair transplant clinic, and I contacted this person on his behalf. They called the program. He asked me for a favor. I mean, this was his last bit of money. He needed it back. He just to potentially get repaired. I called this clinic owner, who is a non-physician woman, and that is important for those who are listening to the story because they'll know who I'm talking about if they're in the industry. and essentially explained the situation. Said, look, it's not a lot of money. This guy's really suffering. You're probably better off if you just give him a refund. And I was very nice about it. No, threats or extortion threats. Like, hey, listen, if you don't pay this guy his money back, we're going to bash you on the show. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She goes on and tries to defame me online, saying that we extorted money from her. Now, the reality is we helped this kid out. They really did mislead this poor guy, and he was fucked up with some nerve damage. So why not just return his money so that it doesn't go any further? It's in your best interest as well. I was trying to explain this to this person initially. But as soon as they tried to defame me, all bets were fucking off. I can't talk about it because I dealt with it through the proper channels. But this is the way of this industry. It's a dirty fucking place, man.
Yeah, I mean, they were just all over me, emailing me left and right, trying to do everything they could. He even sent me a picture of a guy that had similar hair as me, and he played in a band, and he showed me before and after photos between 6 months or whatever it was, 9 months. Oh, you could look just like this. You're going to look amazing. Please don't change your mind. I'm just like, dude.
Yeah, and you
finally got the picture.
Because you were talking to a salesperson. Only a salesperson who needed that commission would be hounding you like that.
Exactly. And and he told me, he's like, don't even bother with finasteride. You're not going to get any hair growth and all this and that. So basically, I went and got a prescription from my doctor for that, and I've been on the drug for now 9.5 months. I started January 1st, so 9.5 months I've been on the drug, and I had 0 side effects. I mean, everything's been perfect.
Good.
I haven't really noticed a ton of hair growth. I have noticed a little bit in my temples. I didn't expect a lot in that area since, it doesn't really affect that too much for most people, but I've noticed no more recession. So that's been great.
Well, that's a tremendous positive effect. The fact that there's a cessation of hair loss means it's working for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm super happy, and I'm so happy I didn't go through with the procedure because I would have severely regretted it. And I can't thank you guys enough for informing me and educating me on it because I knew I was making a bad decision anyway. So.
Well, listen, man, that's what the show's about. I'm glad we were able to help you out, and I'm glad that you're not calling now saying, you know what, I went to this place in Indianapolis or wherever you are and got really fucked up, and now what do I do? I'm glad you caught it and contacted us before that happened because that's, it happens. Luckily, you're one of the lucky guys, but in most cases, people find us after the fact because they haven't done their research.
Yep. So, hey, it's not completely out of the question whether or not I'll still maybe do the surgery down the road if I really want to restore what I've lost. But at this point, I'm happy where I'm at, and the drug is working for me, and we'll see what happens.
Dude, I think that's great. I'm really happy for you, and I appreciate you updating us, man.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, you got it. Good luck.
Take care.
All right. Yep. Thanks.
Bye.
Saved another one.
888-659-3727. That is 888-659-3727. I'm not going to let this get me tonight, Joe.
Good. You shouldn't.
Because it is. It's driving me crazy. I see 4 different levels going on.
Oh, well, let me distract you. And I'll give you an update on the young lady that called us on on Friday from Norway.
Let me go on Instagram. You can make this happen. Hold on for 1 second because it's a good story. It's a good story. It's a good story, guys. Hold on for this. Go ahead, Joe.
So for those of you that didn't tune in on Friday, of which there are very few of you, we had a young lady call from Norway, and she was scheduled to have surgery the next day, Saturday, this past weekend. And
on a Saturday, like that's not a red flag right there.
Yeah, that was first red flag. Second red flag, never met the doctor. She had consultations with a sales rep, never met the doc, and she was supposed to meet the doc before surgery on Saturday so they could go over the game plan. Well, she wasn't a candidate. She has a little bit of natural temple indentation. I'm not even going to call it recession because that denotes loss, of which there is none. It's just her natural hair shape or hairline shape. And I understand why it bugs her. It bugs a lot of women. They think they need to have the ideal U shape that kind of just forms a U over the forehead. And she wanted to do that, and I get it. But we discussed with her candidacy, what we thought of her candidacy, and the fact that she was absolutely unaware. She confirmed this in an email later on. She absolutely was unaware of the potential side effects of this surgery, and she even confirmed to me that on the clinic's website, they don't call it a surgery. They call it. Let's see if I can find what they call it.
Well, I got to tell you, she was really. I mean, I'm glad that she contacted us. We had a really bad connection. Where was she calling from? Sweden, Norway. She was young, but not too young. But she was extremely naive when it came to the surgery. She was certainly, in my view, guided in a really unrealistic and irresponsible direction. And the fact that she was sold surgery and they were willing to do it on a weekend, that was the first red flag.
She says, Joe, can you confirm that it's actually a surgery, as the website says it's a non-surgical procedure? That's a blatant, like, if you just call it something else, like just a procedure instead of surgery, that's bad enough. But they're actually contradicting the fact that it's a surgery by saying it's a non-surgical procedure. So here's the thing. The follow-up on this is she went into the clinic. She had her pre-op consultation, which she was under the impression was going to be a final decision, if I recall what she said on the show. And she canceled. And they said, no problem. She left, and they tried to hit her with a bill. And they were telling her there's going to be 5,000 to 8,000. I don't know if they use euros in Norway. I don't know if they're part of the I think they do. 5,000 to 8,000 euros. That was her interpretation. Now they're saying it was 58,000 euros.
Really?
Yeah. So she's obviously disputing that, but she's asking for our help to help her with the list of potential side effects and to confirm that it is considered to be a surgical procedure. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to send her a copy of this recent ruling by California that this is a surgical procedure to be performed by doctors only. I think that should help.
But let me add, she had nothing in writing. She had no contract with these people. She provided no. She
brought that up. She said in Norway, an oral agreement is considered to be binding, which is a really interesting take on legalese. But I can't imagine that would apply to a surgical procedure, a medical procedure.
Yeah, it's pretty unlikely. I don't think she has anything to worry about. But yeah, you can definitely send her that information, help her out. I'm glad she decided not to have surgery, and the fact that this company is claiming that it's not surgical, again, I think it just illustrates our point that it's not just, the black market isn't just in third world countries. The black market is happening here. The black market is happening in first world countries. The black market is essentially the vast majority of this hair transplant field. This is a black market, and no one seems to get that. Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
It's Morty from South Florida. How are you guys?
Hey, Morty, what's happening, man? How are you?
Not much, man. How you guys doing?
Not bad.
Cannot complain.
I'm glad to hear it. I wanted to give you guys a call on Friday. Unfortunately, I got a little caught up. I was a little too busy, but I'm glad I got on the line with you guys tonight. Wanted to tell you, Joe, your buzz cut looks awesome. You look really sharp, man. And I got a chance I got a chance. Sorry.
I'm digging it.
Yeah. Now I get good. I got a chance to watch your video on that new doctor from Arizona. The stuff she did is, I mean, not just good looking, but the surprising thing was the results she got with such a small number of grafts. Was really kind of amazed. It really amazed me the fact that she could do something with under 2,000 grafts the way she did.
Morty, this is what I find interesting, and this has nothing to do with the fact. I mean, you're relatively new to the game, but the fact that Dr. Keene is even considered to be a new doctor kind of shows you where the industry has gone. And I think this is actually this may be an important segment, Joe, to actually have Dr. Keene listen to, because the reality is, Dr. Keene was one of the original founding members of the IHRS. She is one of the OG players in this game who actually took the time and cared enough to essentially start off in the game by doing pure follicular unit transplant surgery. She never did it the wrong way. She was always using microscopes, always had a full-time staff, always really did the vast majority of work herself. And then as she transitioned into FUE, she did the same thing. So the fact that she's considered new, or I mean, especially in this new normal of the hair transplant field, is wild to me. But I understand she has been eclipsed by all the bullshit out there.
Well, I'd never heard of her until I saw your video, Joe, and I'm glad that you enlightened me and I guess everybody else who follows you.
Well, thank you. I got to tell you, it was a pleasure bringing her on board because I've known of her for over 15 years, and I've known her personally for a few years now, and she's one of the most passionate, perfectionist doctors I've ever met. And I mean, she like years ago, like everyone knew who she was years ago, but that's when the landscape was a different environment completely to what it is now. Now you've got all these Instagram clinics and YouTube clinics. She still does it old school. She's got a little bit of an online presence. She, like Spencer said, she's OG IAHRS, like one of the very first founding members. But she's kept a low profile basically throughout most of her career, and I think it's time that more people understand who she is and what she brings to the table. Like, I mean, she's a doctor's doctor. Like, not only is she a doctor, medical school, but her training is in surgery from the very beginning, which I think is pretty cool.
She's actually a board certified general surgeon, which is unusual. Listen, you do not have to be an actual, take a surgical residency to be a great hair transplant surgeon, but she is one of the few that actually did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, I just wanted to point that out and actually to tell the people who are listening that they should check out the video because it's a choice that I would not have considered. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, and I told this to Spencer offline last week, was I happened to be listening to some old broadcasts and I came across a call that I made probably early on, one of the first calls that I made to you guys, and one of the things that I wanted to bring up was what's the value of going with an IAHRS doctor versus going with some other supplier? And I had asked the question of Spencer, and I said, okay, if you go with an IHRS doctor and you're dissatisfied, what recourse do you have by virtue of going with an IHRS doctor? And Spencer basically said the recourse is Spencer, that Spencer will go to bat for you guys if something was done incorrectly. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be able to guarantee anything from the doctor, but I mean, you've got a very powerful force in Spencer Kobren and the IHRS to compel the right things to happen. And obviously, the other thing that's important is to remember that surgery is the last result, a recourse, and you shouldn't do it until you've exhausted all your other avenues. But if you do get fucked up, if they're IHRS, Spencer's going to go to bat for you. So I just wanted to point that out.
I appreciate that, but the reality is, yeah, I mean, obviously, I will go to bat for you. But basically, we act as a liaison for the patient, between the patient and the clinic or the physician, and it helps both sides actually, because it makes it much easier. We are able to help physicians in a sense where patients feel, okay, at least there's some recourse. They don't have to go online and maybe mistakenly try to destroy someone's reputation when they have some sort of recourse, when they know that someone will listen to them. That's one of the reasons why all that stuff happens. And also, obviously, for the patient, at least the patient knows, you know what, if something goes wrong, if something is, I'm not talking about the typical type of complications that you guys should all be prepared for before you decide to have surgery. But if something really goes wrong, a patient who goes to an IHS member has the opportunity to come to the IHS and say, look, this, and this happened. Can you at least, help to be an intermediary so that I can, either get a partial refund or speak with the physician to see what's going on, see if this is normal, whatever questions you have. So it's a pretty big deal, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I just don't think, and I find it interesting because it really does show how commoditized this industry is when you call these doctors suppliers.
It's true.
It's kind of sad.
Providers, suppliers. Yeah. No, I know.
You actually said suppliers, not even providers. So that really speaks to the level of commoditization of this form of cosmetic surgery, and this is the most nuanced and difficult form of cosmetic surgery. One of the most nuanced and difficult procedures that exists today, and it's looked at like a piece of shit nothing procedure.
And obviously, you can tell the difference, man. I mean, some of the butchery that I've seen versus some of the artwork. I mean, like I said, Dr. Keene's, the stuff that I was seeing was just kind of amazing to think. Not only that the result was that pronounced. I mean, that there was a Nord 5, I believe, an example that was given, and they were able to achieve full coverage in like less than 2,000 grafts, which I didn't even think was possible. And again, I think that a lot of that has to do
was it the FUE case?
Was it the FUE case? I have to go back and take a look. I don't remember whether it was an FUT or FUE, but it was simply the graft counts. Yeah. One of the things that you had accentuated was the graft counts were fairly low compared to some of the stuff that you see out there. Like, I mean, there's a Spanish clinic which is really big on YouTube that talks about 7,000 and 10,000 and 15,000 grafts, and the results are, well, shall we say, less than appealing. And here you have somebody with an example of getting a large amount of coverage with less than 2,000 grafts. I'm like, well, that's just great because you've banked so much more grafts. If the person needs a second procedure or a third one, they still have plenty left in the bank if they're only getting in for 2,000 or less grafts.
Well,
so
first of all, here's a secret for all of you guys. If there's a clinic or a physician that's really huge on YouTube, to me, in general, that's a red flag. You want a physician who spends their time in the OR. You want a surgeon who spends their time performing surgery, not pandering to vulnerable, desperate people on the internet. So to me, yes, it's important that the good doctors get their message out there. But those who spend way too much time, who become like quasi or even real, like internet influencers in their field, they're churning out surgery, all right, but they're probably not doing much of that surgery themselves. Yeah. And in most cases, those who spend that much time online, in my experience in this field for more than 22 years, are usually not great at what they do. They're good marketers, period. It's like when someone says to me, well, I'm going to a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon. All that fucking means is that they figure out a way to pay the rent in Beverly Hills. That's it.
That's it. That's all it is.
I live here too. I figured it out.
Yeah, but you don't hurt anybody, Spencer.
No, I'm saying that's the difference. That's all it means. If you're a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon or Beverly Hills hair transplant surgeon or cosmetic surgeon, if someone leads with that shit, to me, that's another red flag. If you go on their website and you see the Beverly Hills sign and like a fucking Rolls Royce or Rodeo Drive, get off the website. All it means is they figured out a way to market themselves well enough to pay their rent. That's it.
True that. The results speak for themselves. That's what you're really looking for. You're looking for good results, and obviously dealing with IHRS doesn't hurt. Dealing with the recommended list from Joe over here definitely helps. So yeah, and thank God for you guys, and also thank God for you guys convincing me to wait. One last thing I want to add, and that has to do with my Chinese laser cap. I don't know if I'm going a little nuts, which I probably am, but I think it's actually made a difference.
All I can tell you is there's no difference between the Chinese laser cap that we suggested that you go online and purchase. For how much did you pay for it?
I think it was like $110 or $115, something like that.
Okay, now you paid $110 for a single device. Yep. Imagine if I went out and bought 25,000, how much it would cost.
Oh, well, now you're really talking.
Well, it'll actually tell you on the website.
Yeah.
It'll give you the discounts based on volume.
So when you see these ads on CNBC or Fox News or any of your local cable channels there are some companies now that are now promoting these laser devices, and they're telling you that they have financing available. If you need to fucking finance a laser cap, A, you're in trouble.
There's something wrong.
There's something wrong. And B, you're being fucking ripped off, in my view. Just my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Morty, can you do me a favor? When you get a chance, can you send me a link to the exact shop on Alibaba that you bought this from?
Absolutely. I'll email it to you as soon as we get off this call.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Like I said,
for everyone, I'm sorry, Maury. For everyone who's watching on Instagram, for the 5, 6, 10, 12 people, whatever, I want to say hi. I kind of just have the camera here, and I'm trying to look at what you guys are posting, but I have to get right into it to see it because I don't wear glasses. Maybe I should. But we're just trying to, play around with Instagram to see if we can get some sort of traction doing a live broadcast on Instagram, because really no one does any live call-in stuff on Instagram. So we're just kind of giving it a shot. Morty, you gotta jump back. You gotta jump back faster, man. If you have a conversation like this with women when you're on a date, it's not going to go well. I'm trying to be good here because I don't want to cut you guys off, because in the past I've done that, and I'm trying to be, I'm trying to be respectful. So I was actually just going to end the call and say that it's great talking to you guys. I wanted to make room for other callers, but you guys are my internet best friends, and I love talking to you. And it's great that you guys keep on doing what you're doing. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm a little creeped out that we're your best friends on the internet.
No, I didn't say you were my best friends on the internet. Yes, on the internet. Yes, as a matter of fact, you're the only YouTube influencers, I guess, that I talk to on a regular basis. So yeah, I guess I could say that safely.
Listen, man, I absolutely appreciate that, man. And you are always a great caller. You are very, observant in this field. You've learned a lot. You've kind of raised an eyebrow more than once, asking the right questions. And the fact that you are one of the few guys who took our advice and went out and bought yourself a Chinese laser cap instead of spending $3,000 in some doctor's office.
That's ridiculous.
That really, that warms my fucking heart, dude.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to, as soon as I get off the phone, Joe, I will send you the link. It's, I believe it was AliExpress, but I will send you the link.
Yeah. Cool. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, guys.
All right, Morty. You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
No, but it's true. When it's time to sell out, I already know. I mean, I did a national direct-to-consumer infomercial, and I've been asked to do several over the years in my career. And I did one which, about a little over a decade ago. And so I know how to get involved. I know the companies to contact. Essentially, we can go out there. I could brand a laser device, and we can sell it It'll be less expensive, and consumers will know that, some of the proceeds are going to educating consumers. What does that mean? Basically, you're paying me, and I'm still going to do the show. That's it. But when it's time to sell out, and that time may be any day now, there is a tremendous outlet, and there's a tremendous opportunity to sell these fucking laser caps because everyone's buying them. And is there evidence that there's, some possible benefit to them? You know what? I've seen no real clinical data that I could say that supports, for sure, 100% this shit is working. But I see a lot of anecdotal stuff.
Yeah.
So when I do my infomercial, if someone, I'm going to have people in the audience and they're asking me if it worked, I'm going to be like, I don't really know. But if you're going to try, you might as well buy it from us.
You tell me, what's it going to cost you? A couple $100?
Yeah.
To find out?
That's it. This is going to be the logo. The emoji like this. I don't really know. Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Spencer and Joe, it's Rowan phoning from New Zealand.
Rowan from New Zealand. I couldn't even say that properly. Rowan from New Zealand. Welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Oh, very well. Thank you, guys. It's been good listening to you guys go live today. So, as always,
I'm really glad you're here. I'm glad that you caught us live. What time is it in New Zealand? It's probably 11 o'clock the next day, right?
no, that's close. Yeah, we're about 1:45 in the afternoon. So on Wednesday.
That was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
That wasn't bad. So what can I do for you, man?
Hey, just a quick appreciative thanks for what you guys are doing. Just to follow up to what your last two callers have kind of expressed, really. Just the from your perspective, Spence, with obviously not running off, going down the road of surgery, and also with Joe's kind of default position of saying, don't get surgery. I think if a guy is prepared to just sort of wait it out, not sort of rush into things. I'm just speaking from experience. You really get to appreciate the weight of the decision you effectively you're going to be making, and if you give it the time to wait it out, it makes a world of difference to your perspective on what decision path you go down. And I think I really give you guys credit for what you've what you have to say.
Well, tell me about your experience.
So I'm 50, and I've been on finasteride for about 18 years. And I've had a really good run with it. It's worked.
So the dick is working. Everything's good.
Still works. If I look at my family dynamics, I've managed to push pause for that time, and I basically started the medication, and then I just got on with living, and I haven't thought twice about it until I sort of hit 50 just last year, and I thought, well, maybe it's time to just start looking at the next 15, 20 years, and that's what's led me more to, plug back into sort of what your guys' information's all about.
Well, listen, I appreciate that. I've been on the drug longer than you, well over 2 decades now, and, there has been, obviously, we talk about the, Propecia lawsuits, and there was a recent report on, that came out, I think it was last week through Reuters, claiming that Merck was hiding some information, allegedly hiding some information from the public. They knew that there was a potential, at least in one patient during the clinical trial, that had longer adverse side effects even after discontinuation, I think it was up to 60 days after discontinuation, and then there was really no follow-through. But the reality is it still doesn't really change anything. The reality is most people who take this drug have had pretty good positive results without any adverse side effects. You cannot say that same percentage holds true for those who take other medications. even if it was 20% had some adverse sexual side effects from this drug, which it is not, that would still be lower than the potential for sexual adverse side effects, say, from taking antidepressants or high doses of cimetidine, which is Tagamet for your stomach, or what happens to women who are taking birth control for long periods of time. Some of them suffer with severe sexual dysfunction, and in some cases, it can be permanent, not to mention, blood clots and heart attacks and all the other shit that goes along with that. But because this is a lifestyle drug, and because it's a men's lifestyle drug, obviously, and I'm not saying, listen, this is not to take away from those who are really suffering from adverse side effects, because this is real. There is an anomaly. There is a group of people that deal with it, for sure. But I definitely think there needs to be some sort of legitimate balance put out there so that people really understand what they're getting into. I think the information needs to be out there for people to make a decision, but it has to be balanced and in perspective. You're a guy who's been on the drug for 18 years, and now you're just starting to look at options to move further. You're 50 years old already. So it's obviously done you a great deal of good.
Well, I think so. It was always intended to be a bit of a push-pause to see what's happened in the industry. When you were starting out, as kind of, when I was just looking at options. And I've been in Joe's orbit of connection more recently. Joe, I flicked you through one of your SOS packs, and I was advocating at that stage that I was indicating how new I was to coming back into this area. I said, well, I was thinking of maybe stopping treatment of finasteride and just looking at surgery as an option. And you kind of put me straight and said, well, look, if you're going to stop treatment of finasteride, you're really wasting your money looking at transplant options in the future as well. So that kind of was a bit of a correction that I needed to get up to play on. So I appreciated that.
Well,
I'm glad you stuck with, or you took that advice, because the last thing you want to do is to stop the medication, have a procedure, only to see the hair that you saved continue to fall out at an accelerated rate, rendering the procedure almost useless, because then you're back in the chair after less than a year, trying to as they tell you in the consultation office, trying to stay ahead of your hair loss.
Yeah, it's good advice, and I think 18 years down the track is like, well, kind of, you are looking at the end game. So I've had a good run for the 18. So what's really what's the fair, when you're in this season of life. And I guess at 50, you've got a different perspective on life as well. What I was just going to bounce off you guys is
first of all, I'm going to interrupt you. The whole season of life thing just depressed me. But go ahead.
Did it? Well, I should spin it as being perspective. How's that?
You're right about that. Now, you know what? I talk about it. I mean, the reality is I'm in my third act. I have to just accept that. This is it.
Yeah.
So what do we got to lose?
Yep, that's it. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, you just value life in a different way. I've walked through seasons of passing family members, and it just gives you a little bit of perspective on what life's about.
Dude, my entire family's dead. I am the last man standing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's you have to have that perspective. You have to recognize when I wake up in the morning and I can see and I still have wood, I'm like, I am the luckiest man alive.
That's good. Yeah, can't argue with that. I agree. I guess, so my thoughts are of at the moment is very... just a cautious approach. So obviously, clinical consultations, I'm just trying to probably map out a bit of a direction from here. And it's a little bit hard. The general feedback I've had is you really need to have in-clinic, ideally, but obviously recognising that there are a limited number of IAHRS certified folk in our part of the region here. The closest would be in the Asian countries, and then we're back in the States. So
let me tell you that you're part of the world, New Zealand, Australia. I mean, the surgeons and the consistency of surgery, in my view, it just really isn't out there. Listen, you got guys like Ray Woods, who essentially, he started the Woods technique, introduced it to me, which introduced FUE to the world, which is terrific.
Yep.
But the reality is, I mean, there are still, even though Ray introduced it to the world, there are really a handful of guys in the entire world who are terrific at what they do.
Yeah.
That's just reality.
Yeah. Very true. So I guess what I was thinking to do is trying to do a bit of a combo. I was looking at an in-clinic consultation, but combining it with maybe a PRP treatment, just as a bit of a tentative, hey, let's just see how it goes, because then you're getting a benefit of a airway ticket all the way around the world of travelling that distance. And I was just going to, sound out yourself and Joe to see if that is a good idea. Obviously, I want to do an in-clinic consultation, but then I might as well combine it perhaps with something like PRP. I know, I just thought, was that something that's possibly a good idea, or maybe something that needs a bit more thought?
Combine the surgery with PRP?
Just looking at an in-clinic consultation just to see, okay, this is where we think you're at. This is possibly what you could think at for the next coming years, and maybe looking at doing a PRP treatment with a clinical consultation at the same time. Is that something that you would advocate, or maybe it's
let me ask you this. Where is your hair loss now? And forgive me if you said this earlier, but you said you've been hanging on to your hair, but where is it as far as like your current situation? Do you have obvious areas of loss? Are you thin? Are you bald in any areas, or is it pretty much a decent looking head of hair that you just want to get stronger?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yep, pretty much. Just want to add more density, and that's kind of it. Which is where obviously it's a little bit early to be looking seriously at surgery. I now sort of acknowledge so. And when I did a online consultation with a reputable clinic recommended by yourselves, they kind of advocated a very measured approach. But obviously also advocated you're probably better off getting a clinical consultation first as well.
Right.
And I just thought, So I just thought, it's a long way to go for a consultation, just for a consultation. But would putting PRP in the mix be something which would be advantageous at all to sort of help?
I think I remember where you're going. I think I remember the clinic, and I think I remember your inquiry through my website.
Yes.
Here's the way I look at PRP. I think PRP might be a good option for you. It's non-surgical. But the next question after, should you get the PRP is, if you get the PRP, are you willing to return to that same clinic once a year just for more treatment? Because it's not a one and done. It's just like any other treatment. You got to keep going back to get more treatments.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So I was thinking of looking at the next 12 months. So it was a case of the clinical consultation was to actually see whether I do qualify, would be a good candidate for having a transplant at some point. And while I'm over there, I was probably just seeing if PRP would be a benefit for the coming year, in light of continuing on with finasteride as well. Or am I just sort of hanging out?
I'm not a fan of that approach, and here's why. Let's say you have a great result with PRP. Let's see there's a noticeable improvement in your density as you're looking for. Are you willing to? Because you're talking. It's like I'll guess $2,000 just to get to the clinic. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then the cost of the PRP on top of it. What, $3,000?
Yeah, probably two. So you're probably looking at US, 4 to 5K, which is Kiwi or New Zealand, 6 or 7K.
Yeah. So are you willing to spend that much money for a treatment that gives you maybe gives you a boost for your hair? You may be. I don't know. This is more of a question that I'm asking you to think about this, because for me, I wouldn't do it. And I think the clinic you're talking about is one of the clinics I work with, and they're great at what they do, and I think they've got a good approach and a good take on their PRP. But dude, you're flying halfway around the world literally for a PRP session. I don't. It's not. It wouldn't be worth it to me for two reasons. One, the physical toll it takes on you just to hop on that plane and fly from New Zealand to where this clinic is, and then to come back. That in and of itself, that's a big deal, because you're dealing with that's a big time difference, jet lag, and then you want to throw a PRP on top of it, and then add insult to injury. It's going to cost you about $6,000 or $7,000 Kiwi.
I just need to interrupt this entire bizarre conversation, first of all. And the question to me is, you've been on finasteride for 18 years. You're doing well without any adverse side effects. At least during this conversation, you have not stated that you're losing ground. Are you losing ground at this point?
Not losing ground, and obviously it's probably just density. I'm just noticing under light. That's probably where I realise it. Which hitting 50, it was kind of putting the brakes on it with finasteride treatment, and it's just a case of what I'm looking at is probably the next foreseeable. Not rushing into surgery, and so looking at soft options to see, would it be any benefit sitting in a clinic of a certified, approved physician to say, well, this is where we see things going. Whether there's any advantage of doing that or not, basically at this stage, should I just wait it out and see? Well, until it's really obvious.
You don't want to wait till it's really obvious, because once you've lost that hair, But what you want to do is you want to watch it closely. You want to monitor it. You can speak with a physician, even your local physician, about the possibility of upping your current dosage a little bit to see if that helps you get past another decade. And there are those who, and I'm one of the people, I'm not a physician, who believes that finasteride is dose dependent. You may be at a point in your life where upping it slightly, and you need to talk to your doctor about this, because I'm not a doctor, could get you to where you need to be, meaning you can just kind of hold steady.
Yeah.
And that would be a lot easier than jumping on a plane once a year or twice a year. You need more than once a year. Anyone who says all you need is PRP once a year, I haven't seen that really work yet, but there are a couple of doctors who are making those claims. The best results that I've seen are those who are willing to get it quarterly.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to spend 6,000 New Zealand plus a plane trip 4 times a year to potentially save your hair, then that's fucking awesome, and I would like to know what you do for a living.
No, it's good advice. I mean, I do see PRP as a huge benefit post-surgery. I think it's now being promoted as helping the healing process, particularly for international travellers, because there is real, time frames you want to optimise for that sort of layover while you're waiting for recovery. So I could see the benefit of that.
I will actually contradict you on that in that I personally don't think that PRP is as good for healing as it is for being a non-surgical treatment. Okay. Because here's the thing. It's like I'll take my own case as an example. I have never once had PRP for any of my surgeries. Not once. This last FUE I had done, I healed very fast. I healed very well. And it comes down to 2 very simple facts. The technician knew what she was doing, and she was using the right tool for the job. Period. End of story. That's all you need. That's all you need for good, optimal healing. That it's like, are 2 days really going to make any difference if that's what it provides for you? No, it's not. Because with FUE, which is what you'd most likely wind up getting, it's like that anyway. It's not going to make a difference for your travel plans or anything like that. Now, the thing that makes the biggest difference for recovery, from my experience, is if the graft placement is done after the grafts were stored in hypothermosol and ATP in the storage solution while they're waiting to go back in the scalp. That's what increases the recovery time, and that is what will give you the highest likelihood of faster growth. It's not PRP. Right. I mean, it may a little bit. I don't want to say it's useless, but the biggest benefit I've seen, like I've not seen a clinic show me, yes, this patient healed in 3 days versus 12 because of PRP. Nothing like that. It's not. There's no miracle with that. What I have seen are some impressive fucking turnarounds non-surgically with PRP as opposed to finasteride or laser caps or anything like that. It can do some really good work if it's looked at as a non-surgical alternative.
I have a question for you. If I were to open up a chain, or just like if I were to have, like, say, you know, a couple of hundred PRP trucks in your part of the world, would that be something you'd be interested in? Would you sit in a truck and get PRP?
I guess, like anything, it'll come down to who's actually who's diagnosing it. Why you're looking at a partnership there, are you, Spence?
It's going to have a big American Hair Loss Association banner on the side. We're going to have, we're going to do it the right way, and it's going to be really beautiful. It's going to look like a dentist's office.
But it's not a truck.
Be able to compete. Yeah, they'll be able to compete
it's
with
a
the
mobile
robots.
cosmetic application center.
That's exactly what it is. We wouldn't compete. We would dominate. Again, write that down, Joe. That's the next sellout plan.
We don't compete. We dominate. I like that.
No, look, that's good advice,
but
guys.
back to your point, or back to your question about this. I think that there is potential with that. Okay, but back to the original issue of should you even bother with it? Only you can answer that question. But I was asking you some questions to kind of get you to think a little bit more about this. I think that what you can do in the interim is maybe buy a $150 laser cap and see what that does for you. Why? You don't have to go anywhere. It's delivered to you. It's cheap as hell, and it might actually do something.
Yeah, good point.
There you go.
That's a good point. Yeah.
All right, man. Listen, do not rush off. Obviously, I know that you're not going to, but I think that you have the advice that you need. I am a fan of PRP if it's done correctly, but I do not think it makes sense, like Joe said, to spend the money to travel thousands of miles and to be out $6,000 per procedure in your dollars, and maybe you'll have a question. I mean, a possible result. Maybe you'll increase your anagen phase, keep your hair growing for a longer period of time. Maybe increase or reverse some miniaturization. No.
Yeah, it was really just a one-off sort of initially. I wouldn't be looking, as you say, cost-effective wise doesn't make any sense. So it was probably just a case of trying to combine a clinical visit with a potential treatment that could maybe help. But as you say, there's a lot of expense involved. So it's probably a case of continuing down the current path and monitoring it closely, and then maybe looking at options further down the track.
Well, there's a lot of expense involved, like you said, and there is, really it's a big question mark. If we knew that if you did this once or twice a year, that you would absolutely get a positive result, that's, then it would make sense if you had the money to do that.
True. It's a game changer. You're right.
All right, man. Listen,
guys.
I really appreciate the call. Good luck. Thank you so much for taking the time to call from New Zealand. Are you calling the 800 number?
No, I'm on toll. So we're just doing it old school. So
okay, well, I appreciate that because I don't want to pay for the call.
Oh no.
I'm just kidding.
Thanks,
dude.
guys.
Listen, I really appreciate it. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye bye.
Thanks for calling.
Not the caller. The caller's not a pain in the ass. Just trying to do the Instagram thing and have my mic on with the monitors on. I just forget who's on first. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Spencer. Hey, Joe. It's Rick from Virginia. How are you guys doing?
Hey, Rick from
Hello.
Virginia. What's happening?
I'm doing good. I just called to give a one-year finasteride update, and I had a question.
Okay. Let's hear it. Good.
All right. It's been this past August was a year that I've been on finasteride. It went really well. I had started the first 3 months on generic, and then just getting into your guys' show and listening. And actually, I called a couple times. Decided to switch over to brand. I was doing the Pro Scar, quartering it, and I had positive results even with the generic in the first 3 months. It no real initial side effects, kind of like electric ball, kind of weird issue thing going on, which you guys had mentioned some people have. And then maybe just some changes sort of with the libido, just a little bit, but nothing major with that, and that kind of went away. I think a decent amount of reversal in the miniaturization, like enough to kind of notice my hair's jet black, pretty thick, and my scalp is light. So unfortunately, as far as the contrast between the two, and the loss was pretty much only, or the thinning, I should say, was only in the crown, and kind of like a Norwood 2 up front, and the thinning was in the back. And I kind of noticed within even those first three going on 4 months, kind of the thinning had kind of, you couldn't really see the scalp much in there. And I kind of thought it was going to kind of go gangbusters. I thought it was going to be one of those guys that just responds super well and kind of fills all back in, and it kind of looks the same symmetrical all the way around. But it kind of held steady. Definitely full coverage everywhere, just the density, not as much in the back, not complaining at all because it definitely stopped the loss. And so from that part, as long as I wear my hair short, ish, it's been pretty good. So no complaints. So it's been an awesome year. And again, just want to give a plug for finasteride. I know it gets a bad rap, and a lot of people that use it and have positive results kind of just never talk about it. And it's only the people that don't have good results and complain about it. So that's the update for that.
That's exactly the truth, and I appreciate you saying that. And a lot of people don't really understand. Listen, the unhappy voices are always the loudest voices, and that's the way that it is. And I think it's important that people have that information so that when they go into this, they know of any possibility of side effects. But it's also important that people have balance, and that's what this program is all about. There are millions of people who are taking finasteride as we speak who are not dealing with any adverse side effects. Millions. And there are countless men who are using it just for their hair, who have, great benefits, who are able to maintain a lot of hair, and they're not dealing with any noticeable side effects. Do we know what's going to happen down the line? We have no fucking clue. But that goes with anything we put in our body, whether it's food, sugar, pasta, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, whatever, living in a certain place. So if it's worth it to you to try to do something about your hair, really this is the only FDA-approved medication that we know has a winning track record. So that's it. That's what we got. So it's always good to hear a story like yours.
Yeah, it's been great. Like I said, when's the last time you called the cable company just to say how great of a job they're doing, right? You just call when you can't get the game on and something's wrong with your TV to complain, right? So one of those kind of things, I guess. And then I did have one question. So one of the things that I didn't realize about my hair, I was wearing it very short. So I would say when the loss really started to kind of progress in the crown area, I would cut it shorter and shorter. So where it kind of buzzed down on the top to like a number 1. Again, my hair is it's just jet black and my scalp is light, and the contrast between the thinning area and the thicker, fuller area was way less if I wore it short like that, and really, really close on the sides. Wore it that way for a long time. But since I've been using the finasteride this last year, I've been able to grow my hair back out on the top to kind of the fringe, the front part a little bit longer, still a little bit shorter, about an inch or so in the back because it's just not as thick, but kept the sides kind of still really short. And then, but when I started to let the sides grow in a little bit, I noticed that my nape, I'm pretty certain I've got like some retrograde alopecia going back there that I never noticed because I always kind of wore like a skin fade to the lower portion of the sides and the back of my neck to kind of blend in with the top. I wanted to know, if, even just from an anecdotal perspective, anything on finasteride and whether it stops or helps growth or anything with retrograde alopecia. Now, there's nothing wrong with the sides growing, but it's just kind of weird, like the center nape part in the back. It's like basically not there, pretty thin. As long as I kind of, like I said, I wear kind of like a bald or really close short fade, no complaining, no issues, and if that's what I had to do for the rest of my life, really not that big of a deal. But just curious if anything. I know it's kind of an odd, retrograde alopecia isn't very common, but if anything on finasteride and how it affects that, or anything else I could do for that area back there. Or...
Sure, do you want this?
Well, that's. I mean, all you can do is finasteride. It can improve it. It can affect it. Aside from that, basically anything else that you'd use for the rest of your hair, like minoxidil, that might help. And sorry, did you say this is in the nape or the sides? I think you said the nape.
Yeah, only the nape. It's basically like if you were to kind of look at my hair from the side view, like it's basically like where the bottom of my ears are, and then kind of just take that all the way around to the back. From that point up there, there's hair there, but it's really fine and thin, and because of, again, my scalp is very light and my hair is black, it's very obvious. Now, again, if I cut my hair really short on the sides and keep it short, it's really not noticeable at all. It's easy enough, and it's not that big of a deal. I was just curious if you guys had heard much about it or seen any results with reversal of miniaturization back there.
Well, I know a guy who I've known for a very long time who does have retrograde alopecia, but has had typical male pattern hair loss as well. Started finasteride later in life, mid-30s, I would say, and it completely halted his recession in his hairline, the mid-anterior scalp loss, and also his crown loss. However, he didn't really grow much back in the retrograde area. So what he does is he kind of cuts it in a fade, and the guy looks like he has a full head of hair in his 50s. So in that particular case, it didn't seem to reverse the problem, but it doesn't seem like things got worse in his case.
Okay, that's like my exact scenario. Is basically where the fade haircut, you really can't tell at all. It just looks like it's intentional, and the top thick, not really much issues. Again, it's really kind of only in the crown. So, okay, not that big of a deal. Just curious to see if there were options, or if you guys had heard or seen anything with that area back there.
Well, the bottom line is we don't know. Every body, every biological system is slightly different. Everyone reacts differently to the medication. In this particular instance, his retrograde alopecia did not get worse. He regrew a lot of hair that he lost, in my view. It was noticeable in the typical male pattern hair loss areas, and he just kind of cuts it short on the sides and the back, and he looks great. So if you can do that, then you win.
Right. I thought about minoxidil, but because I'm not already using it, there's no way in hell I would want to risk like a crazy shed or something on the top when there's no issues on the top, just to grow hair back on the nape.
And that's the thing. You just noticed the nape because you're growing your hair out. It's kind of like that. I don't know if you ever saw that old Seinfeld episode where what's her name is dating a swimmer who had shaved his head for years, and then she saw his driver's license and said, "Wow, you have really beautiful hair," and he decided to grow it out and realized he was dealing with male pattern hair loss, and then he went into a deep, dark depression.
I remember that episode. That was a good one. Yeah.
He's walking around in a stained T-shirt, just really bummed. And he had never thought about hair before, and he had no hair in his head. So yeah, honestly, man, I know you get the analogy, but and I tend to repeat myself sometimes because I'm doing so many things at once. But don't fuck with it at this point if you don't need to. If you can live your life the way that you've been living it and just cut that hair close in the back, don't try to experiment and let it grow. Just live your life the way you have been. Just kind of move on and just keep taking the drug. All right, man?
Got it. Thanks, fellas.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rick.
Yep, bye.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. I'll probably get off Instagram soon. People are requesting to get on live video with me. How can I do that? I'm doing a show. I'm doing it
private.
Right, but I'm doing a show here, and they're requesting to be on live video here on Instagram. It's impossible for me to make that happen. How do I know I'm not going to get like a dick showing?
You don't.
All right. Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, this is Soren from the chat room.
You're not from the chat room. You're not from the chat room. You're from the UK.
Yeah. No, I think you're mistaking me from someone else.
Where are you calling from?
I'm the guy who always Brazil.
Brazil. Okay, yeah.
Brazil. That's right. Sorry about that.
He's been in the chat room for months saying that he's going to call in at some point. He just doesn't feel. I think it's because you don't feel your English is good enough. Is that right?
That's exactly the case.
And
I'm
it
really nervous right now.
fantastic.
Well, look, I've let Joe on the show for the last 5 years. So what are you worried about?
No, you sound fine, buddy. Thanks for calling.
Thanks. I'm really nervous. I have no idea. But thank you anyway. Where do I start?
I don't know. Start from the top.
I'm going to tell you guys Sure. My hair it started to fall around 2015, and I've been using.
How old are you, Soren?
I'm 27. By the way, my real name is Klaus, like Santa.
Klaus?
Yeah, like Santa Claus.
Okay, Klaus. Got it.
Yes. I'm 27 right now.
Okay.
I've been balding since 2015. At least that was when I noticed for the first time.
Okay.
And I've been taking finasteride and minoxidil. But what really happened is that I have never been very consistent with it. For several times I've been on and off the drug, especially minoxidil, because it's really hard to have it on your scalp twice a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And finasteride, every time my supply went up, every time it ran out, I started to procrastinate buying a new box and spent like the whole weekend without taking the pill, or maybe a week or a month even. So it's never been very, very consistent. But since I've been listening to you guys, I started to take it more consistently. So it's been around 4 months and more or less, I think, 12 days since I've been taking finasteride nonstop, like every single day, religiously. And what happens is, recently I noticed when I'm washing my hair in bath, I'm seeing less hair wires coming off of my hand. But the thing is, even though I'm seeing less hair coming off, my hairline is still receding. So I don't really understand what's going on. If the fall is really stopping, or at least slowing down, or I'm seeing things that are not real.
Well, here's the reality. I mean, you are only essentially 120 days in of consistent use.
Yeah.
So there could be a lot of things happening. Part of, you don't necessarily always synchronize the telogen. You don't necessarily synchronize the anagen phase. Sometimes it kind of can throw the synchronization or any type of normal growth patterns off a little bit. So you may be seeing a little bit of recession that's happening, and you may be seeing some positive results in different parts of your scalp. You got to give it at least 6 months to a year for everything to kind of fall into place to see if, in fact, you're getting decent, consistent results. That's just the bottom line.
Right.
You've only been on it for 4 months.
So it's too soon to know, right?
It's just what?
It's too soon to know.
It really is too soon to make a really good assessment of the situation.
I understand. The thing is, I already have had a head transplant done. It was around 2016. I was more or less, I think, 23, 24 years old.
Wow.
Like, too young, right? Yeah.
Where did you go for the hair transplant?
Who did your hair transplant?
It was here in Brazil.
Who was it?
Okay, who was it?
The name of the guy, I don't know if you're going to understand his name because the pronunciation is different.
Go ahead.
But the name is Márcio Crisóstomo.
Sure, I know him. How'd it go?
Do you want me to spell it?
No, I know who you're talking about.
Who are you talking about?
He's kind of he wears glasses. He has a facial hair, kind of a medium, smaller build guy.
Yes, that's the guy.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was that famous.
Well, it's not a matter of being famous. This is a relatively small field, and we're kind of like on the top of the food chain, I guess, so to speak. So we essentially know just about everybody.
Yeah.
So
that's why I went to him.
Tell me about your experience.
Yes. The truth is that right now, at the time I liked it, but the results were not the best. It's a little pluggy, and the hairline is really not well defined. There's a lot of thick hairs, like those double and triple grafts coming out, and even lower than the hairline itself. It's like he planted it along, like in the middle of my forehead, almost. So it makes no sense.
Yeah.
The way I deal with it is that I shave it like every day, so no one can see it. Wow. I try to like draw my own hairline around the grafts that he planted. So no, I'm not happy with it.
Now, did you ever go back to him and say, "Hey, look, this is the situation. I'm unhappy with the result"?
Well, actually, I tried. I emailed him. It didn't go well. We had a little fight.
Really?
Because I was nervous. He was quite polite, but I was nervous because I felt like I was botched, and I said some nasty things. And
what'd you say?
He kept saying he liked what?
What did you say?
I said that unhappy patients are the worst kind of, let's say, advertising. I don't know if that's the right translation.
It is.
The worst kind of advertising you can get. And then I used that to kind of threaten him in a way that he responds to me, because it's been like I'm trying to reach for him in 2 months after the final result, 1 year after the surgery, and he did not reply. So I started to say these things, and he finally talked back to me. So
that's an interesting lesson to any physician out there or clinic out there. The best thing you can do, and that's why I think it's important that, what Morty brought up earlier was one reason to go to an IAHS member is that at the very least patients have recourse. If there's an if a patient is unhappy, if they can't get directly in touch with the physician, they can contact the IHS, and we can make sure that they get in touch with the physician right away before the patient tries to extort you, doctors. Because, and this is for the doctors who are listening, if you guys have to resort to threatening a doctor just to get him to respond to you, that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
True.
I don't agree with the extortion thing, but I understand the, and I don't endorse it, obviously. Endorse it. I don't, what's the word, Joe?
Support it.
I don't support it. I don't condone it. But the reality is, physicians are physicians. They took the time. They took your money. You are still their patient. They should respond to you.
Yeah. Yes. I'm not proud of it, but I think it was the only way to get him to talk to me. So I did it. But let me see, summarizing the whole thing. Right now I have this really pluggy transplant, and my hair has fallen even further. My hairline is even way back, and it's getting to a point that I don't even want people to see my face anymore. I don't want to look at the mirror. And this is really, really, really bothering me. So since I started this new treatment, like non-stop finasteride, because of you guys, because of listening to the show, I had zero hopes that finasteride wouldn't work for me, because I've been on it on and off, but since 2015. So I thought I'm just on one of these guys that don't respond to the drug. But since I've been listening to you guys say that you have to be consistent and that the drug, it really works. I'm trying to give it another shot. So, but the reason I'm calling is that I'm really worried that my hair continues to fall even though I'm taking the drug, the finasteride. But you said it's too soon to worry about that because it's been 4 months only.
Well, don't forget that even if you've been taking the medication for 2 years or 15 years plus, like I have, or 20 plus years, like Spencer has, you're always going to see hair in your hand or on the sink or wherever, because that's the natural life cycle of hair. So you're always going to see the hair. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's not coming back when you see it in your shower or in your hands. It just means that it's exiting the anagen phase of growth. It's gone through the catagen phase, and it's in the telogen phase where it's fallen out, and you got the follicle is in its resting phase. Okay, those hairs will be coming back. Like when you see a longer hair and it's a nice thick, terminal looking hair, that's a healthy hair. It's going to come back. Okay, so don't worry about those. Don't let the hair in your sink freak you out, because there's no reason for it to. All it's doing is showing you. All it means that you've got a healthy hair that's falling out, and it'll be returning. So I understand what you're talking about. And I used to get this question all the time when I was in clinic. I still get the question a lot. It's not something to be worried about. Okay, you're just now starting the consistencies that you need to be adhering to with your intake. So try to take a breather. Don't let this freak you out. Don't be stressed about this. You're seeing a slowdown of your loss, and that's a good sign. So build on that. Okay.
Good to hear.
Yeah, just build on that. Keep watching it with hope instead of despair, because it may wind up stopping it. If it's not going to stop it, it might at least slow it. It sounds like, at the very least, it sounds like it's slowing it, which means that you get to enjoy what hair you have longer. Okay? And it helps you to plan for the future if you need to do something more. Because you understand, or you'll know that what you've got now is more reliable than it was in the past. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Another question. Since I have this bad transplant, do you think it's a good idea to try and reach for some other doctor to maybe do a repair surgery, like at 27 years old right now?
Well, that depends on your situation. Like, I feel like repair situations are more of a, how can I put this? It's more of a personalized. I mean, it's a personalized procedure to begin with, but it's more personalized for you because you're not an average patient. Every repair patient, every patient's unique, but every repair patient is really unique, and creates a whole new set of problems for the doctor to address. So that means that your research has to be impeccable. It has to be far better than what you put into it to begin with. Because as a repair patient, you had one procedure, yes?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So as a repair patient, this next surgery, your second surgery, is the most important one. And it doesn't. Sometimes a repair surgery should not be performed as one surgery. Like, this is going to fix you. This is going to get you where you need to be. Sometimes repair is 2 surgeries or 3 surgeries. It just depends on how extensive the repair work needs to be considered. Like how bad is it? If it's a few grafts in the front that are pluggy looking, that can probably be addressed in one procedure. But then you have to ask yourself, do you want to have a surgery to get you where you wanted to be originally in that first procedure, or are you just simply looking to look normal, like you never had surgery to begin with, and still have recession and maybe a high hairline, but naturally as if nothing ever happened? Because when you go in as a repair patient and you're hoping to be put back in a position that you wanted to be with that first surgery, that's a recipe for potential disaster, because you're asking the doctor to do two things: fix what was done before and accomplish what the first one was supposed to accomplish the first time. It's rare that can happen. So sometimes to get to that goal, you got to take it in steps.
So it's not very realistic to expect.
Dude, I don't know if it's your connection or if you're not speaking to the mic on your phone, but we're definitely having a lot of trouble here.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not very realistic to expect to have the result I was expecting in the first procedure.
You can never have the result that you expected in the first procedure, meaning you'll never have the best possible hair transplant result that you could have had if you have to repair a prior procedure. With that said, if the majority of the work isn't that terrible, a slight correction could make a huge difference, but Joe is 100% right. My problem is you went to a guy who, at least the way that he presents himself, and I have nothing bad to say about this person because I don't hear a lot of complaints about him. This is actually the first one. And he's never applied to the IHRS, so I have not had a chance to really see his work. But when you see him at the meetings and the conferences, he comes across as ultra confident. He's speaking at all these things and giving lectures at all these things. And then when I hear a story like yours, where you only had surgery 3 years ago, and you have 3 hair grafts in your frontal hairline, and you're saying that the hairline placement was inappropriate or too low, and that there were other issues, and also issues with communication, that definitely gives me pause. And I'm like, why can't we find fucking somebody good in Brazil? It's like one of the plastic surgery capitals of the world.
Tell me about it. Yes, I do know.
So I mean,
I've been considering.
Go ahead. What?
Yes. I've been considering flying somewhere else for this repair surgery. I was considering Dr. Baalbeck. Is that how I pronounce his name?
Yes.
Yes.
I actually reached for him, and he said that he would plant 1,000 grafts on my hairline, like the single unit, and they would it would make the thick triple grafts not be so apparent. So is this a good plan?
Again, it really depends, and he's about to repeat himself because it really does, and I'm going to repeat what he would say. It depends on the situation. If you just want to look normal, like you didn't have surgery, there's a chance that can happen. If you want to maintain the hairline that was given to you, and you want it to be camouflaged, then it's probably going to be too low. If Dr. Baalbeck agrees that, if you're comfortable with if you can shave that hair without it looking unnatural, and you're willing to do that on a regular basis, and him to build around and reinforce a more natural, more age-appropriate hairline behind some of the stuff that you're shaving, I guess that's a possibility. But it's never going to be easy. Let's put it that way. You're never going to be 100% satisfied, in my view, unless there is some, whether you may need electrolysis. I mean, there's just too many variables at this point, I think. And also, I think it's too soon. You want to see if you continue to do well on finasteride. Give it a year.
Yes.
See if it's continuing to work for you. You may have a really positive result where you're like, you know what? Maybe if I do just pluck these hairs or shave them down, I won't need anything done.
Mm-hmm.
So just wait.
Right.
Just wait. I know it sucks that you have to wait, but that's the nature of the game that you're in right now.
And keep in mind that you're sight unseen. We don't know exactly what your issue is. So is 1,000. Look, I think the world of Dr. Bobak. I think that he's really he's got a unique take, a unique viewpoint on hair restoration surgery. He's had his own experiences. One of the things I like about him is he's so passionate about hair. Like when he was in medical school, he was listening to the show long before he ever had his own work done or got into the industry. He was listening to the show, but this is before I even came on board. And I said it in my video about him, he's a hair geek, and it's true. He is. And I would be very confident with a lot of his assessments. I mean, I can't say 100% because I don't know, but I'm confident that I would be in agreement with a lot of what he says. However, again, I have no idea what you look like, and I think that the advice that you've gotten today holds true regardless of what you look like, because I also don't know what your actual expectations are. I don't even know if your expectations are realistic. You might have expectations that are not really deliverable by reality. That's something that Dr. Bobak will be able to assess because he's good at getting into the patient's head and trying to understand what they're actually looking for. But based on this call, I think the basics should prevail, and that is don't expect miracles. Understand that you might need another procedure to really, clean things up, and maybe consider alternatives instead of going in to have hair added. What's wrong with having some taken out? That's something a lot of people I've spoken to in the past think that it's almost a sin to remove some grafts that have been placed. Spencer, I don't know what's going on with your video, but motherfucker. Wow, that's crazy.
All right.
Yeah, mine's good. So, where was I? Yes.
You can do it, Joe. You can do it.
Yeah, trying to pull it out. So, I think that you might be able to get one and done, but don't expect it. Expect the need for maybe more work in the future, and accept any sort of improvement that you can get, because I think that's the best anyone can hope for. And if it's better than you expected, then that's just a bonus. Does that make sense?
Cool. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
A lot of sense. Can I have just one more question?
Yes, you may.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'll wait for that.
Just in case finasteride is not working for me, is it a good idea to consider dutasteride?
Well, I think that's a moot question, because we're pretty sure that it is working, because you've already told us that your hair loss is slowing down.
Yeah, but I don't really trust myself. Maybe I don't know. I've been
well, if you don't trust yourself with finasteride, then you sure as hell can't trust yourself with dutasteride. It's all about consistency. You stick with it or don't even bother, because every once in a while is just as bad as not taking it at all. You got to commit. That's all there is to it. You have to commit. If you don't, then you'll just if you don't commit to the medication. Like, I'm not telling you to take it. Like, if you're going to take it. But if you're not going to commit to it, then don't bother taking it, and don't bother having more surgery. Just have those grafts removed, the ones that look pluggy, and just go bald gracefully, because that's all you can really realistically hope for.
Right.
So stick with the medication. If you want to take the medication, stick with it.
Right.
I have a question for you. Did you have an FUT or an FUE?
Yeah, it's FUT.
Okay. So going bald gracefully is out of the question at this point, unless you want to have a visible scar, which, listen, Joe Rogan does it, Joe Tillman does it, so, you can do it.
Well, for me, it's really, really hard, because I've always had long hair. My hair is like below the elbow. So not the elbow, the shoulder. So
yeah.
I've always had long hair, so it's killing me that I'm losing it. So I'm doing everything that I can to
keep it for as long as I can. So I don't.
Well,
at least right now, I don't know what my mind is going to be in the future. But right now, I really don't consider like shaving and owning it.
Well, you're preaching to the choir, but what I would at least try to do is start to cut your hair shorter. See if you get a slightly shorter hairstyle. See if you can deal with that. If you cut your hair short enough, it could look. You can have the illusion of it being much fuller. You might be able to hide some of those grafts, and you actually may start to see as finasteride, or if finasteride continues to work for you. That may be the only thing you need to do, because right now your hair is being weighed down because it's long.
I was just going to say, if you were to go with a shorter haircut, I guarantee you your hair would look a lot fuller simply because of the weight that your hair has will be completely eliminated. And I just got to say one thing. If your hair loss continues, please, for the love of God, don't be that guy that's obviously losing his hair but still has your hair down below your shoulders. Because last weekend I was out with my wife. We were having dinner. We were sitting on this patio. It was nice weather out. And this guy was walking by, and he had dreadlocks. This white guy, dreadlocks down to the top of his ass. Like, this guy's he'd been growing them for a long time, but he was diffused thinning across the top, and it's just like, man, it just killed it. It killed the entire look that he was going for, and it looked. I felt bad for the guy. I knew what he's doing. I saw it from a mile away. My wife saw it, and it was just not a good look. It looked like he was trying too hard. Because I get it. It takes a lot of time and effort to grow that hair long. But man, when you're losing your hair, especially in the top, like not the receding part, but if you're thinning on top, or even in the crown, and you got the long hair in the back and the sides, it's not a good look. It looks like you're trying too hard. So consider that.
Makes sense. Maybe I am trying too hard, but haven't figured it out yet. Maybe people are noticing it, but I am not.
I've been trying too hard for 30 years, my man, so don't worry about it. Listen, we're going to go. We got to take another call and then call it a night. But I hope we were able to answer your questions.
You guys.
Thanks for finally calling in.
You helped a lot.
Yeah, and you know what?
Thanks a lot, guys.
Call in again.
I will. This
Okay.
was a first attempt. I will keep working on my English. So next time you can understand.
Your English is a lot better than my Portuguese, so don't worry about it. Okay, take care. Ciao.
Bye, buddy. Take care.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Joe Spence.
Hey.
Steve from Arizona.
Hey. Steve from Arizona. What's happening?
Yeah, remember I called a few weeks ago? I had the slow boat to China, going to the dermatologist and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, I do, actually.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. All right. Excuse the voice, coming off a real bad case of laryngitis. It was horrible. I couldn't even talk for like 5 days. Nothing would come out.
Wow.
Either way. Yeah, it was. I never had that before. It was like would try to talk, maybe a whisper, tops.
Yeah. I had a bad case once, and but I used to look forward to it when it happened to. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was lovely. I want to go through a drive-through. I mean, you take this shit for granted, of course, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of going through a drive-through. Get my cheap whatever the hell it is at the time. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. I can't even go inside. That's it.
See, but
so
no. Here's the thing: you're missing an opportunity, Steve. Missed opportunity. You pull up to the drive-through, and they're like, "Why didn't you give us your order?" And you start faking sign language.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Have fun with it, man. Have fun with it. And just watch them.
I actually did get something free out of it because I went to my normal place, Samurai Sam's, and I walked in. I was like, fuck this bullshit. I need to get this goddamn chicken bowl. I always get the spicy one. And I just wrote it down. And at the bottom, I put laryngitis, like as in, yes, the fuck face. This is why I'm giving it to you. So the girl at the front, it's not her fault. She's a stupid kid. So she keeps looking at laryngitis. I mean, it's clear as day what I wrote. And she's like, "You want large in itis?" I was like, I looked at her like, I mouthed the words, "What?" You know, like in a joking way, you know, like whatever. And like, you know, and I was like, no. And I was like I kind of mouthed laryngitis. This is when it was full blown. And she's like, "Oh, so you want it large in a cup?" I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "No, laryngitis." Like I could barely squeak the words out. And, you know, whatever, she gave me a couple free things and she felt like a fool. But that was as far as I took the whole thing.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Look at the positives, man.
Large cockitis? What?
Large cockitis? What? Hello?
Right? Yeah, she gave me a couple shekel things for free. But anyway, so updating about the finasteride script, I did end up going to the dermatologist and getting it. 3 weeks on it, a little over 3 weeks, and still bald, so I'm upset about that. But I'm joking. But I know you guys get those buffoons that call in, you know, and they're freaking out about it. But I will say, to all you weirdos listening right now, you know who you are, that I usually don't worry about stuff like this. I don't know if you remember me talking about the gynecomastia, I worry about it, you know, because I have a little bit. And I thought, okay, maybe, possibly, right, I could get it again or you could reactivate it. And I'll tell you, you know, I'll be fucking damned, because that is what happened. Like, psychosomatically, I knew it was in my head, right? Because I didn't think about it for the first couple of days. And then all of a sudden I thought, well, you know, I'm 3 or 4 days on it now, and I know people start to feel side effects at that time. And I was feeling like the mind to body part, I was feeling like in my chest, like a tightness around the nipple area. I was like, I knew, like, you know, intellectually I knew what I was doing, but I was still doing it anyway, you know, for about a day. And then I was like, you know what, cut this fucking bullshit. And like, this is ridiculous. And then magically they stopped. And
sure,
I think that's just one of those deals, and I already knew, you know, going into it, but that's just one of those things that I think a lot, and I think you guys think the same thing, that a lot of people who do say, you know, I got side effects, like I said, and then they're on the forums, and then they're, you know, doing that whole bit. And they're constantly going in to the dermatologist or the doctor that they get the medication from and telling them about these side effects because they were telling me about them, as in almost like they didn't want to give it to me. And or you know, the regular doctor. When I went to dermatologist, I'll tell you about that in a second. But he was letting me know too, and I haven't had any, no real ones anyway. You know, psychosomatically, like, you know, if I didn't wake up with a rager, you know, that's just the first thing that pops in your head. But I full well know that has nothing to do with it, you know. But I think a lot of people, they do get psychosomatic side effects, and I think I probably would. I mean, and this is merely anecdotal, merely looking at a lot of forums over the years and people talking about the drug and whatever. I would have to say it's a vast majority. Because, I mean, you know, maybe Merck could have fudged the clinical trials a little, but, I mean, such a low percentage. And then it's almost everybody that I've seen take the drug say either they had something transient, which might have been true, or they had something long-lasting, meaning as they were on the drug, then they got off and it was pretty much gone.
I would tell you, prior to 2005, and I would say, well, yeah, I mean, 2006 became really more prevalent, but I just remember when it first started in 2005 on one of those RX sites, we were really the resource that people would call in to and talk about their finasteride use. And when I was on the radio in like 22 markets, not one person ever called who was taking the drug to complain about long-term adverse side effects. On the contrary, I can probably count the number of times that people called in to even talk about, you know, even transient side effects.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely a unique phenomenon that started around 2005, 2006. And I think there is a mass hysteria effect. Again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, I know you know, and I believe you. And I believe a lot of the people that have said that, because that was one of the things that the dermatologist told me was, you'll probably have watery semen. This is what's going to happen, And I know you talk about, hey, you're probably not going to shoot ropes anymore. You're not shooting ropes.
That's it.
I'm still shooting ropes.
You are. Good for you.
I mean, full ropes. That's right. Dude. And a full 5-strand too.
I'm down to like a quarter rope, but whatever,
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
It just dribbles out a little bit. Oh.
Dude, it feels the same. What do I give a shit?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right. But yeah, so that's one of the major things, and I mean, I'm sure some people do, but far fewer than what I hear. I mean, even from these very few people that I know that are on it, one said he doesn't feel anything, but it also would be his personality that I would expect, just going with this kind of motif here, that I would expect he would say that he didn't get anything. Much like me, maybe I'm a little more neurotic because I, knew I had psychosomatic, but did anyway, whatever. But I knew he would say no. And another guy that I know, kind of like just as an acquaintance, I knew he would say he had something, at least transient, and he did. And I really think that's a huge component, especially when we're talking about such small little changes you can have, like, I don't get as many erections as I used to. How do you even quantify that?
It's hard to. It's hard to get
little tiny things. What's that?
I said it's hard to. It's a little pun there. Anyway,
I couldn't hear it. Yeah. Anyways, so
good for you.
The doctor. So I go. Yeah, the doctor. So I go to the dermatologist, and I don't know, and you guys would know a lot more about this than me, but is it just me or a lot of people that are in the, let's say, aesthetics type of business? Because a lot of what they do, dermatologists, offices like skin peels and, little aesthetic things, are a lot more to like this than in other places. Like I go in there and the large, homely assistant tries to hit on me, which I kind of found odd, like in a place of business, I suppose. I was like, whatever. And then the dermatologist,
was it a guy or a girl?
Was a guy. And the dermatologist was a gay boy too, and came in and tried to hit on me and giving me weird compliments and stuff like that. So,
did you just say gay boy? That is so politically incorrect. I love it.
Yeah, I said it anyway. Not that now I got to do the Seinfeld thing. Not that I care.
Yeah,
right?
not what is it? It's
not that there's anything wrong.
Not there's
with
anything
it.
wrong with it. Yeah.
So,
that's true.
No, and honestly, I don't give a shit. But the assistant was a female,
right?
So it didn't really matter. It was just I would have found it odd had I not been in a place like that. You know what I mean? But I just kind of chalked it up to that because I would assume that would be common. What about
that? Is still not a normal occurrence. It should not be happening in a physician's office.
No, there's an ethical boundary that they're not supposed to. You're not even supposed to get the hint that he's flirting with you or she's flirting with you.
Right. It's
got to be completely like that. That's bad. Actually, that's not something that you should experience because, yeah. I mean, that could be another episode, but that's not a good thing.
Right, you can go on forever with that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. At the time, I'm just I'm not really one to make a huge deal as long as it's not way over the line one way or the other. I don't really give a shit. I just wanted to get the goddamn finasteride. You know what I mean? Now, what I've kind of found odd
so how was your date?
Was that what's that?
So how was the date?
Yeah, right.
He said he did what he had to do to get the pizza. So
I did. Yeah. We ran a train on the fat girl in the room.
Oh my God! What show is this?
Just kidding. Don't mention it. Don't mention the name. We don't want to know.
I'm not going to say. But anyway, so it was a funny kind of, it was almost like an opposite recommendation of what the first thing he said. First of all, he wouldn't give me the Pro Scar so I can cut it up, which was, oh, fine, whatever. But he recommended, and I know a lot of this goes against what you guys are talking about. He recommended the generic finasteride, and he's like, oh, I've been on it for a long time, 20-something years or whatever the hell. And I used to cut the tablets and. What's that?
He hasn't been on generics for 20-something years. It hasn't been out that long.
No. He just said I've been on the pills for 20-something years. Back in the day, this could have been lying too. Back in the day, I was cutting the 5 milligrams a pop, and I was like, oh, okay. He's like, but just take the finasteride, works just as well. The one, it's really cheap, whatever. Like $5 with insurance, and per 30 days, and so. Just take that. I said, well, what about the brand name, the trade name, Propecia? And he's like, oh, it's about the same, which I know I already heard from you guys a ton of times that yes, sometimes yes, and sometimes not in at least anecdotal, evidence that you guys have come across. Mm-hmm. But then he said, as far as minoxidil, he's like, what minoxidil are you taking? I was like, just the cheap Kirkland stuff. He was like, oh, what you got to do is you got to take the real Rogaine foam. That's what you got to take. And I said, okay. I guess I could take that. It's fine. He's like, okay, I'll write you a prescription for that. Prescription. I don't know if that's gonna knock anything off, but okay. And so I didn't end up doing that because at least anecdotally from anybody that I've heard anything from, that there was no, and it could be wrong, but that there was no difference on that front, on the Rogaine versus Kirkland.
Let's just put it this way. I mean, if you think about it, intellectually, if you think about what this guy is telling you, in one vein, he's telling you, with one drug, he's telling you it doesn't matter if it's generic. With another, he's saying that it does matter. What we do know, at least when it comes to most generic medications now, especially when you are buying generics in capsule pill form, there's been some problems. There's a really good book. The author's name is, what is her name? Catherine Eban, E-B-A-N. The name of the book is, I think it's, let's see, Bottle of Lies. Pick it up, read all about the reality of these generic pharmaceutical companies in different parts of the world, China, India, and other places where a lot of U.S. pharmacies end up getting their drugs from. And what we're finding, and what a lot of guys are finding in practice, is that while Merck is getting a lot of shit for these adverse side effects when it comes to finasteride, a lot of the guys, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of the guys who are taking finasteride, who are experiencing adverse side effects, seem to be using generics as opposed to brand name. So,
yeah, I heard that. That's one of the things I've heard you guys say before, and there's probably something to it. So, at least with certain generics.
100%. 100%. Yeah. We do know, and now, at least according to this book and according to some recent research, about 85% of these generic pharmacies or drug manufacturers have had tainted products or issues in their facilities. So, yeah, I mean, I personally am not a fan of generics, especially when it comes to this drug. When you're taking a drug like a benzodiazepine and you something that you're going to feel right away, you know whether it's working or it's not. But when it comes to a hair loss medication, you really have no clue. But his logic as far as minoxidil is concerned, it doesn't make any sense if he really believes there is no difference in generics across the board.
I mean, maybe he's thinking one, but not, I don't know, but not the other. That's kind of where I thought, if anything, he would have suggested the opposite, just because of anecdotally what I've heard. But yeah, so I mean, that was the end of that. I know we had last time and I did switch doctors. last time we had talked about not, why wasn't I switching doctors, and 9 months to be able to, get one referral over over to the dermatologist.
And I got to tell you, this guy doesn't sound like much of a winner in my book.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and this is the derm.
Yeah.
Which is okay. He gave me, at least that, which it wasn't the best experience because I couldn't get the 5 milligram Proscar, and he just wrote his, script for finasteride. That's pretty much what he was going to do. As far as a regular doctor, I didn't switch at the time. I didn't, say anything at the time when we were, bullshitting about hair last time, because this is just fucking hair. I mean, the bottom line is who really gives a shit when it comes to bigger stuff. At the time, I was going through a lot of different referrals, different scans, different tests for lymphoma.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up being clear from, what you can discern. There's a whole, thing I can get into, because there's a lot of tests won't test for certain kinds, or they won't show up accurately. But from what we know, at least right now, and the test that just to go over it like real briefly, that I should be okay.
Oh, good.
So, and that was one of the main reasons why I was sticking them there, just because I needed the referrals going to these other oncologists and everything to get it done. But so as soon as that was okay, I switched over, because now, granted, and you guys know as well as I do, most of these doctors are condescending. They think because they went to college and they follow, like you say, and like I've said before, a curriculum, and then ended up being a doctor, that they can somewhat talk down to you. That must speak of your intelligence, as you're not a doctor too, or at least a lawyer or something like that.
To me, that's
right?
one of the easiest routes in life to take. All you have to do is be focused as a kid, and if you have the opportunity, you can do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and a lot of people have better opportunities than others, depending on what you came up, how'd you come up with, and, your parents' financial resources and stuff like that. So, and even without, still you could do it. But, yeah, and then they will always, and not always, but a lot of times will somewhat talk down to you, and this cross-eyed fuck was doing that to me. He's like, well, what about your hair? Your hair's not bad. Well, why you need to go over there? He's a Middle Eastern guy, and I was like, why are we still fucking talking about this?
Yeah.
I was like, I just need a script for finasteride. I'm understanding you don't want to give it to me. And this is after I already went over it with the nurse. We had probably 60. And I had already talked to the nurse about it, and this is a conversation I had relayed with you guys, but I had a return appointment to go over something else, some other blood work for the other stuff. And he brings that up. And I was like, what? And that's why I said, like, I got bigger things to worry about, but what the fuck are we still talking about this for? And he goes, well, you get older and it's going to thin over time. I said, well, no shit, I'm trying to stop it.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not trying to end up like you.
That's the fucking point. I don't want to look like you.
Hair is coming out of his head. Yeah. Exactly. And, with a full Hulk Hogan in the back, right? And I was like, and so he's like, well, he's like, yours isn't that bad. I was like, it doesn't matter. This is when you jump on it, because it's not that bad. Although, it's still, if I send a picture to you guys and I put minoxidil in my hair, when it's all greasy and wet, you can see the goddamn horseshoe,
sure.
You know what I mean, pattern. So it is what it is. And it's just I have more of a diffused, thinning pattern. Like when I was younger and I was a kid, I had a super low hairline.
I just put a picture of myself when I first started on radio on Instagram, and I think it's on Facebook. And I'm looking at my hair and the insane thickness of the back and the sides and even the top, which I was kind of doing kind of a quasi-Trump thing, but I believe
even back then you're doing the Trump, huh?
A little bit. I mean, I've been holding on to the Trump the early years for a long time. So, but the density, especially, I mean, the back was long, and it was just like, it was so fucking thick. And
but you could do whatever you want. You could wake up. You didn't even have to wash your hair that day.
Yeah.
Walk out of the house with a fucking bedhead and look better than you do now. Nobody would think anything of it because you had all that hair.
But the reality is, it was like I was already taking finasteride. I had already been published. I was already on the radio as the hair loss guy. So I get it. I understand, early intervention is the key, and that is the whole point of my existence in this world, is to tell people that this is the reality. And for anyone who tells you, like everyone was telling me, well, your hair's not so bad, what are you worried about? Well, if I didn't take, the opportunity to treat my hair loss early, I would not be in the position that I'm in today.
Right.
Right.
That's
and
it.
I
Me
look
on
at
the-
it with me. Yeah, you were
Completely different opposite
early in
story,
Austin. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't apply here.
What's that? I couldn't hear.
I was just saying I got a different story. It doesn't really apply here, so yeah, nothing to talk about.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, with me, it's more of like, and I look at it realistically. I mean, I'm 36 years old. I should have attacked this 10 years ago when I still had a pretty good head of hair. And it was still pretty solid, 26. Maybe you get on finasteride, you get that, those miniaturizing hairs come back a little better and a little stronger, and you can look pretty good and, hold on to it from there. It's too bad now. I mean, I should have got to it a long time ago. See, I kind of kick myself for it, but it is what it is. I'm here now. This is the way it goes. And, it's one of those things where you do other things. And I wasn't in denial. I knew it. I would make jokes about it even back then. Hell, I was making jokes about it when I was 20. I mean, that's when I started losing it. I would, at the time, I'm in college and I'm working at I'm working in a store or whatever, and by myself. And so, I would, if I went like to the restroom, they had a real lit up mirror with like box lighting above it. You could see everything, right? And I would look and watch every day. I was going through massive hair loss at the time, the beginning stages. And I was just watching it fall out. And, back then, 2003 or something, I had no money. I couldn't even afford the finasteride back then. And there was no generics back then. There's no way I could have afforded it. I was a good broke-ass college kid. I had nothing. So I just kind of got used to being in that mode. I just never considered going, hey, let me dump some money into this. I mean, I've had it for a while. I could have done it a long time ago. I just didn't. I just put it off. I should have.
Yeah, I would have. I would have. I was so desperate. If I didn't have the money, I would have prostituted myself to get finasteride.
You just sold that ass, huh?
Whatever it takes, man.
Yeah.
I would have invented the sugar daddy sites back then to make some money.
No, you'd have been too young to be sugar daddy. Oh yeah.
No, I would have been the sugar baby.
Yeah, you would have been the male version, right? With the dermatologist, he was probably doing that shit back then. They make what, 400 or 500?
Now, why does it have to be with a guy? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but why can't it be with some old lady?
Yeah, because they ain't gonna pay for it.
Yes,
they don't give a shit.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me, dude? You're only 36 years old. You'll find out. There's a lot of women paying for it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a run, a major run, and especially when I was in my late 20s and early 30s, I dated. I don't know why, but now that I look at it, I dated a lot of older women.
Yeah.
Like early 40s, mid 40s, upper 40s. And, I mean, I probably, to be honest, because in my late 20s to early 30s, it was really easy because they knew I wasn't going to want anything serious from them.
Right.
They knew, they got what, about 3 or 4 meetings. What's that?
They looked at you like a tall glass of water.
Yeah. They look at me like, what do they got? I mean, realistically, 3-4 years left in the tank before the ride's over, right?
So
and pops.
Well, the reality is, look, as we get older as men, our stock goes up, and sadly, they start to lose a little bit of their value.
They lose a lot, and so that's what I was doing, right?
God,
and
I really hope certain people aren't watching this show.
Yeah, I know.
No. It just was what it was, but now, and let's say I'm 29 at the time, right? And I'm trying to date like a let's say 24-year-old. I already noticed my hair is fading, right? And they're going to look at that differently. But of course, I could be a hat slave, right? Just wear the hat.
Well, they're looking at it differently. They're also looking for a prospective mate. They want to have someone who's going to, have children with them and get it settled down with them. So they're looking for the right evolutionary
and I already
partner.
had a kid.
Okay.
Yep.
Exactly. I already had a kid at the time. I didn't want to have any more. So they didn't take that too well. And I would just be honest about it. I didn't give a shit.
That's the cock block right there. At that age, that's the cock. At that age, that's the cock block. It's like, I've got one, I don't want any more, and they're like, okay, next.
Oh yeah, and I didn't want to date girls with kids because that would have made it easier, but I didn't. And people would say, "Oh, you're being a hypocrite." It's like, no, I'm not. This is just my decision. This is my preference, and that's just the way it is. Just like a lot.
Yeah.
I would not be a fan of dating a single mother. It has nothing to do with, it has nothing to do with her. I don't want to have some fucking dude in my life.
Yeah. Well, another thing was and they know I'm going to take care of my own. Right?
Yeah.
I'm good. That's just what's going to happen. I'm not going to rely on anybody for that, right? I know full well when I take you out to dinner, say she has 2 kids, that you're going to want to bring them around.
Oh, those kids are going to be. You're going to be taking those kids to Chuck E. Cheese, and you guys are.
Now it's going to be table for 5.
Right.
And guess who's paying for the bill at the end of the night?
You're damn right.
And if I don't, if we're on some 50-50 deal on some honor system, hey, we're not going to do that to each other. Yeah, that lasts only so long. So that first bill goes by and that little test goes by. And I got to go to the bathroom when the check comes, right? And then you come back, hey, I went ahead and split that up. And then you get the quiet treatment for the rest of the night. And then it either comes out then or the next time around. Oh, you got to be so cheap. You're not gonna,
yeah, how dare you? Other men would die to be with me, and you won't even pick up a tab.
Yeah.
Look, I've come to terms with it. I've come to terms with it. This is the bottom line. If I want to go out with somebody, I have to pay for everything, and I'm okay with that. I don't even think about that shit at this stage of my life.
You said somebody. I didn't say somebody's. You're talking about 2 others.
Well, whatever. That's true.
Yeah,
you're absolutely.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I would absolutely not. If I was dating a younger woman, not date somebody who had children, and that sounds terrible, and it's not it's not being cheap. It's just I don't want to have. I have a life. I'm already set up. I like my life the way that it is. I don't want to have to go to fucking Disneyland and take 5 people to Disneyland and sit around in the fucking hot sun with what are those cinnamon stick things?
Churros?
Yeah. Buying kids churros and wiping their faces. I didn't sign up for that. That's not what I wanted. I just want to get laid and have a nice time.
Exactly. What if you're in the unfortunate position that they're around long enough, and then the biological's kind of a bum a little bit, and he can't afford shit, and you can. Now all of a sudden you're in the position of, well, they were living with you. They kind of thought you were that a little bit. State don't want to pay for it anymore, so guess who's up?
Yeah. Well, you don't live with somebody, and if someone does live with you, you have them pay rent,
Well,
even if it's $1.
The Disneyland far length, and you're living with them probably at that point.
You know what? We should do a men's show. We should definitely do a men's show because there's a lot of information out there that needs to be put out there for young guys. You are of a good age. You've already lived a lot of life. You're 30. What you said? You're 36.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're already a little embittered, and I get that.
No, I've heard you live in what? What would you
You're
say?
already a little bitter, and I get that.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong. Hey, that's how you keep your guard up.
Dude,
I've been around a long time. I've done a lot of dating.
I just call it experience. I call it being wise and honing your skills in this world. So, all right, man, listen.
And it would be...
Go ahead.
What's that?
We're going to call it a night, but go ahead. Give us your last thought.
Oh, okay. No, I had a bunch of other stuff we got on that whole tangent. We could have been there.
Well,
like forever talking with that.
Yeah.
But
I love that stuff.
Right. Yeah. One last couple last quick points was I know you guys have talked about Lonatin before. is under any circumstances, because I've heard people say you get on Lonitin and finasteride, go to fucking Maine. Although you got to knock the doses down, a couple milligrams or something like that, and I see people get like tremendous results out of that. Now I know blood pressure medication. I understand what goes along with
Look,
it.
I'm going to cut you off now. It's like there's for us, honestly, and we say this all the time. Too many potential adverse side effects to take the risk. These are really desperate guys that you read about on the message forums who are willing to go that route. And can it work? For sure. But the potential for significantly, life-altering adverse side effects are not great. And you're also dealing with, kind of skirting a potential, serious illness. The less you put into your body, the better.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I kind of bring that up half in jest. A part of me is like, obviously, you could have a heart attack, and part of me is like, let that motherfucker stop. I want hair, But
yeah, I
obviously, I would unless there was a huge clinical trial, which there never will be because it was a dangerous drug. It's almost a last resort now if they prescribe it to anybody if the other better medication doesn't work. But and another thing was, I know you guys were talking about all those online guys who do the helmets, the laser helmets and the this and the that, and they're always selling their, bullshit shampoo that is, DHT blockers probably doesn't work at all that kind of stuff. But one thing, I know a lot of people liked, and some people don't, that David DiMuzio guy. And I remember last quick thing on that was a couple years ago. This is when my first foray into, hey, let me maybe try to do something about this. And I was about to get on minoxidil. I hadn't even gotten on minoxidil yet. And so I remember, I watched some videos. I was just starting my research into just getting into it. And just for amusement, I was watching videos. And I was like, okay, email him. I guess this was the sales guy for Dr. McGrath that he works with on his channel. I'm sure you guys, other people have seen it, and they know what I'm talking about right now. Yep. Well, they were like, oh, go ahead and, message some pictures, and we'll get back to you. We'll tell you what you need to do. Well, the first message was, and I already knew just by common sense what they were going to say, but I did it anyway, whatever. And I sent a couple of pictures, and, the first message I got was reasonable. Well, first thing you need to do is get on something to stop it. I recommend finasteride, possibly minoxidil, etc. And I just got back and said, yeah, I'm gonna get on it soon, and see what we can do. And he got back to me probably an hour later. And hey, you're speaking of talking about dating and all that kind of stuff. We were trying to strike while the iron was hot. And he goes, no more than like an hour later, like I said, I can, if you want to fly out here, because I told him it was in Arizona, I think it was like Texas or something. If you want to fly out here, I can get you in a procedure next week. And even before I'd ever listened to you guys, I just looked at it and I was like, get the fuck out of here. And I didn't even respond. And that was the last time I looked at it. It just goes to show that it's all about getting you in the chair usually.
Well,
I knew it just by,
I think that story just speaks volumes, period. Yeah. That's all you have to say. The fact that there's that connection, and the fact that a salesperson called you to get you in the chair, I can't blame the doctor for wanting to get leads, and I can't blame the doctor for wanting to perform surgery and figure out unique ways to get people to get leads. But I'm not even sure if I can't say that. I mean, he's the captain of the ship. But I do think that it is misleading, in my view, and I think it's unethical, in my view, to utilize these type of educational resources to then try to make that sale.
Yeah, well, it shows you the true motivation behind all that.
I mean, we had for many years. I had the resource in the country. This is prior to the internet really being a huge thing. And I was on the radio, had the books, had the IHRS, and I refused to have any online consultations, even though I was asked to do it by many doctors, because there are other websites that were doing it. I'm like, look, man, I am not going to sell surgery, and I'm just giving people an option to find doctors that I believe, are doing good work that have consistent results, but that's it. This is an organization. This is not a marketing scheme. And I stood by that for the last 20 some odd years, and it served me well. However, I would have made a lot more money if I went the other route.
Yeah, and I even think, absolutely, and I think like talking about and listening, and this isn't really a knock on anybody in particular, but I've been listening to you guys for a while, and listening to a lot of the callers, and online too, and completely unconnected to you guys at all, different forms or whatever. And a lot of times, with this particular type of surgery, we went over this last time with the particular personality types that really get obsessed over it. I don't think a lot of guys are emotional, not mental, no knock on their intelligence, but emotional candidates for the surgery.
Dude,
for me,
100% they're not.
I look at it like I'm going to be on finasteride for a year approximately. I mean, if I get no results after 8 months, I'm going to be a little like, shit. Like maybe I'm just maintaining, but I'm not a regrower. But I'm hoping I get one of those, top 5%, where all of the miniaturized hairs I got come back, or you had 3/4 of them or something. Maybe. But if not, just a maintainer, it just gets a little better or something.
Dude, these poor motherfuckers are like fish in a barrel. And you know what? That's why a lot of the people in the industry are lost now, because the industry has been so diluted that there's so many people are in it, that the old guard, the guys that are used to making money hand over fist, are no longer doing that. So they're trying to find, unique ways to stay relevant, to continue to make that money. The problem is they have to be more aggressive now than ever before, whereas all they had to do before is essentially hang up a shingle and be one of the few that were either connected with us or,
they were just doing it.
Yeah, there were just so few people doing it. They had it good for a long time, and they didn't realize how good they had it. And the reality is, all they had to do was treat it like real medicine, as opposed to the commodity the way that they marketed it for so many years. It never would have gotten to this point. And
it's tough to do when the Harbor Freights of the hair loss industry come in and say, hey, come over here, I'll pay you for a hotel, it's $1,500, and somebody who's really qualified and really good, who say, I know Joe was put out a video, and I was already looking her up, was Dr. Sharon Keene, who I see her results on the page, and I saw Joe put out that video. I was like, this is tremendous, and she looks great, and and I live in Arizona, so she would be, amongst a few others that I would check out, she would be my prime, honestly, candidate to go get that done, if I needed it, right? And I look at it, and I looked up reviews for her, and there was a kid who's 20 years old who got it done, who maybe she shouldn't have done, a 20-year-old kid that looked like crap. And I look at it this way, just like you guys have said, there's always somebody from every Dr. Wong, everybody, that somebody got, butchered a little bit, or it didn't turn out right, or they recessed horribly, a ton of shock loss because their hair was trash, and why'd they get it done at 20 years old? Anyway, and I look at it this way, as these things happen. I'm looking at it from the objective point of view. I'm going to go with the person I feel that it does the best, most consistent work. If it doesn't work out for me, it is what it is. Unless it was gross misrepresentation or whatever, or a bad day on their part, it was terrible. Yeah, but if it's just one of those deals where it just doesn't come out correct, or I'm not happy because it doesn't look like natural thickness, of course it won't, that's on me. And I eat that. Now, a lot of these people, like we were saying, that aren't emotional candidates, if they're one of those people, and like I said before, you guys know who you are, where you walk around and you'll be one of those people who will blame other people. You go to a store and you buy whatever it is. You go to a store where they're selling, I don't know, lawn feed and all this kind of stuff, and it doesn't work. And then you come back in 2 months later and say, that guy sold it to me. You start blaming it on him instead of taking responsibility for yourself. And the research that you did.
And listen, there are plenty of people like that in the world, but this is this is unique when it comes to surgery. That there are even some relatively normal people initially that once they're really affected by hair loss, they go this route. They've entrusted their appearance and their life and their interpersonal relationships and their future into with a physician who they really trusted, or they felt were they wanted to trust. They were told what they wanted to be told, and if something doesn't come out just right, some of these guys just kind of like it's almost like the tipping point for them. They may never have been this way before. So, but to me, there's a way to assess that. And most of these doctors and consultants are not great at doing that because, especially when you're dealing with a consultant, they are trying to sell things. Now, I just froze again. You know what? That is a sign that we should get off the air. It's already
time to wrap it up.
It's a half hour past the show. But listen, dude. First of all, I'm glad that you came out clear. You had no issue with lymphoma, and that's obviously the most important thing. And it's really, when you're talking about what we talk about, it really does put things into perspective. But the reality is, even though you went through that, you're still fucked up about your hair.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, of course, I'll still wear a hat if I go out on the weekend, lymphoma or not.
Yeah.
At least I'd have the excuse then, right?
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. But listen, we definitely got to close up shop. My camera's frozen, so people are able to hear my voice. That's it. So listen. Call next time. You're always a great caller, and we'll talk more about the reality of this insane dating world, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to talk about these hoes next time I call them.
Oh, Jesus. You see?
I love the guy.
All right, man. We'll talk.
That guy.
Take care.
That guy.
All right, guys.
Okay.
Have a good day.
You too.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, there's something wrong with the capture card, and I will tell Andrew, he's like, just reboot. There's something wrong with this rig.
Yeah. And you don't reboot in the middle of a show.
No, I actually, what I have to do right now is, while you're giving out the websites, I'm going to try to plug and unplug. So go ahead.
Before I do give out those websites, I do want to throw this out there because we're talking about aggressive tactics. While we were talking, I got a solicitation on my Instagram account. I'll read this real quick. Hello, Joe. I was on Instagram and saw you were having a hair loss issue. I am a hair restoration expert, and I've helped thousands of men and women fix their problem. If I can answer any questions, please call or text me at blah, 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 or send an email. Thanks, Alice. That is, I've never seen, it's like they're actually going out and proactively telling people, you're losing your hair, let us fix it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I can't fix my camera. It's done. There's something wrong with that card.
And ironically, this clinic is got some sort of affiliation with dude that Guy just mentioned online. Coincidence? I think not. Anyway, so the websites. We've got hairlossexperiences.com, hair loss and hair restoration forum based in the UK, but being the interwebs, it's available to everyone. It's a fantastic resource. Clinics sharing results and patients sharing their experiences. They support this program and allow us to stream and broadcast through their web property. It's hairlossexperiences.com. Next up, we got bellycapelli.forumfree.it, another fantastic website, this time in Italian, that supports this website or this broadcast and allows us to broadcast through their website. Clinics sharing results, very passionate patients sharing their experiences, and it's a fantastic resource. bellycapelli.forumfree.it. And finally, we've got international-hairlossforums.com. It is a French hair loss and hair restoration forum, clinics sharing results, patients sharing experiences, and they too support our message and allow us to stream through their web property. That's international-hairlossforums.com. Check them all out.
All right, I cannot get my camera to work right now, so there's a major issue that I'm having. So you guys can hear me, thebaldtruthtalk.com for archives of this broadcast. Also check out Joe's personal website, which is hairtransplantmentor.com. His YouTube page, youtube.com/hairtransplantmentor. Our message forum. Oh, and by the way, subscribe, ring the bell so that you get notified that we are live. I guess that's it for that site. And baldtruthtalk.com is our message forum. Check it out. The American Hair Loss Association is americanhairloss.org. And we got a lot of interesting things happening in the next 30 days.
Yes.
We are in the midst of really being able to put together I wish you guys could see my face, but a really incredible resource that physicians are going to be able to utilize within their practices and really help to educate consumers about the reality of this industry. They're also going to be able to utilize these resources through their social media. And our hope is because it's going to be picked up by mainstream medical resources and also mainstream, real universities and, medical organizations, that at the very least, consumers who are searching hair transplant surgery, consumers who are being solicited, just like Joe did through Instagram, will at least take the time, and this may be, hopefully more in their face, to know exactly what's going on in this industry without us having to repeat it every fucking week, and get it out there on a much broader scale from a third-party resource besides us. That's very cryptic, but my hope, and I think it's going to be reality, is if we can just help 20% more of those who are interested in having surgery or doing something about their hair loss, then that would be a huge win. And I think we're going to be able to do that this year. Yep. And the rest of you guys are just fucking idiots if you're not doing your due diligence. That's all I got to say. So until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.